So I've had this idea for a Chucky movie for a while now. It'd be something like Chopping Mall and Fast Times at Ridgemont High meets Child's Play. I'm going to go ahead and lay out my idea with as much detail as I possibly can. Just keep in mind, at this point in time, I really don't have any footage to work with, but I will use images from previous Chucky movies, as well as AI and pop culture photos to paint a picture in your mind, and also just to help move the story along. We open on a seedy looking pawn shop at night. The owner is sweeping up, getting ready for closing time. In walks a trio of punks. Think the goons from the beginning of the Terminator. They're noisy and obnoxious, so the owner confronts them right away. He tells them he's about to close up, so if they want to buy something, they better hurry up and find it quick. The main punk says he's actually looking for some jewelry for his mother's birthday. Now, the owner's reluctant to help them, but he's really greedy and can't turn down a possible sale. He just can't let $1 walk out the door if he knows he can possibly squeeze one out of somebody. So he lets the punks look around at his selection a little bit. All this time, the camera pays close attention to a golden ring with a large red stone in a protective case away from all the other jewelry. The main punk finally notices the ring and tells the owner that that's the one that he wants. The shopkeeper scoffs at them, saying the ring belonged to the Lakeshore Strangler and that he's been offered up to $15,000 for it. He doubts the punks could afford to get it cleaned, let alone actually buy it. The punks burst into a weird fit of laughter, enough to make the shop owner feel really uneasy. Then they just flat out admit that they actually don't have any money at all. The owner is frozen and confused. The punks are menacing and almost playful, and after a few moments of them all locked in an awkward stare, the punks all pull out small caliber pistols and brutally execute the shop owner behind the counter. The violence will be portrayed very direct and very bleak, not stylized or romanticized in any way. Think the shootouts in Scorsese's Taxi Driver or William Friedkin's The French Connection. Once the shop owner is down, trio of punks lock the door behind them and trash the entire place. They take the ring from behind the counter and they clean out the register before starting an enormous fire that grows to consume the building as they slip away. The title card would slowly rise from the flames. Think the excellent opening of Evil Dead Rise. I'm still unsure of what to call this movie, but for nostalgia's sake, let's just call it Child's Play 4. Then we fade to black, and for a few moments, it's nothing but silence. Then we hear the faint sound of radio static, and in comes the voice of a jockey detailing the traffic, and we fade into a busy freeway crowded with vehicles. Cue in a funky pop song. I'm thinking something in the vein of Back to the Wall by the Divinyls or Money Changes Everything by Cyndi Lauper. You can really fill in the blank here. If you have any better ideas, definitely leave them down in the comments. The traffic gets moving, and after cutting around to different cars, we eventually stop on a red sports car driven by a typical Hollywood blonde. I'm thinking the Christy Brinkley character from the National Lampoon's Vacation movies. She hits a stoplight and ignores some catcalls while puffing a cigarette, and eventually pulls into the swirling parking lot of a pastel-painted shopping mall. She exits her car and approaches the mall, stomping out her cigarette before she enters. She's really just there to get us to the mall, because once we're inside, we cut around to patrons in and out of shops, browsing kiosks, posing in photo booths, eating in the food court, and hanging out on the massive concourse. And at the end of the montage, we see those three punks again, stuffing their faces with mall food. We see an oddity shop over their shoulder, and we slowly zoom in. We cut to inside the oddity shop.
Karen alert. We have a Karen alert.
No, not Karen Barkley, but an annoying shop patron. She's looking around, wearing a sour face like she smells shit or something. She approaches the counter, and at the register is a tall, skinny, lurch-looking guy with a dark duster jacket, gauges in his ears, face piercings, and a bunch of scars scattered on his face. Think Captain Howdy from Strangeland meets Edward Scissorhands. What comes next would be an awkward encounter, inspired by a scene from Kevin Smith's Clerks. There's a part in the video store where an annoying patron asks Randall about different tapes as he reads the newspaper. He's clearly ignoring her while providing dry, generic answers. It's hilarious, and here I think you could twist it a little. The oddity clerk would have the same dry, uninterested tone, but suddenly snap into a subtle yet menacing demeanor, quietly threatening the Karen and daring her to do something about it. Now she's cowering in fear, and although it's satisfying to see a Karen get her comeuppance, this guy is far from good by any means. We realize this when the three punks from before waltz in just as the Karen scurries out. We find out that the oddity shop owner is their leader of sorts. They answer to him and almost cower in his shadow. We also find out that he instructed them to steal the ring and destroy all the evidence behind them. After holding the ring up to the light and ogling it like an amazed child, the boss, as we'll call him from now on, snaps out of it and immediately instructs the punks to lock up the store. The group takes the ring into the back where the boss has tons of photos, newspaper clippings, and memorabilia of serial murderers plastered on the wall. Gacy, Dahmer, Ramirez, Kemper, and of course, his personal favorite, Charles Lee Ray. The boss then slides a rug away from a spot on the floor to reveal a ritual rune. He lays out the ring and then pulls out a brand new good guy doll fresh out of the box and lays it on the ritual rune as well. The boss then tells the three punks the story of Charles Lee Ray, the Lakeshore Strangler. He tells them the urban legend that his soul haunted a good guy doll and terrorized children. He tells them how Charles Lee Ray served Damballa, a serpent god in voodoo mythology, and that he too serves Damballa. And not only that, he intends to resurrect the soul of Charles Lee Ray and hopes to help him become human again. As the boss reaches the tail end of his story, he grabs the smallest of the three punks and opens his throat over the rune. The boss then does a voodoo chant, the lights flicker, and when they come back on, the good guy doll is sitting up like the Undertaker. Chucky is fucking pissed. He leaps onto the boss and gets right in his face. The boss can't help himself and starts to fanboy out. He was convinced Charles Lee Ray faked his death and went into hiding, and always thought the doll rumors were an urban legend, like Bloody Mary or sewer gators. The boss confesses his respect and admiration of Charles Lee Ray and apologizes for waking him. Chucky ignores him and cuts to the chase, demanding the boss find him a weapon. The boss giddily agrees, pulling out a long wooden box. Inside is the knife from the original Child's Play. Chucky's downright amazed. He wonders where the hell the boss found it. The boss hits him with the Nardwuar non-answer, something like, "Well, you're Charles Lee Ray, we had to find it." Chucky realizes that he has an ally in the boss, but he slowly turns his attention to the two remaining punks. The boss peddles the two punks like a used car salesman. He tells Chucky to pick one to be his new vessel. Chucky approaches the punks, who at this point are so frozen with shock and fear that the only parts visibly moving on them are their eyes. Next would be a sudden smash into a montage of violence, shot similar to the Psycho shower kill, with dozens of quick cuts bouncing around the small space, ending with a shot of a blood-soaked Chucky standing over the carnage, breathing heavily like Kane Hodder as Jason Voorhees. Chucky slowly turns around, glaring at the boss as he carefully trudges toward him, leaving tiny good guy sneaker prints with each bloody step. Chucky then demands the boss bow down and swear his undying allegiance or die like his little friends. The boss does not hesitate to do so. Chucky then explains his new inspiration. Being a doll allows Chucky to hide in plain sight. If his body is destroyed, he goes straight back to hell. People kill people all the time and lock each other up even if they're innocent. They do it and the world keeps turning. Most people who believe themselves to be reasonable or moderately intelligent wouldn't believe in a possessed doll, and Chucky's counting on that. He continues that his new goal is to make Damballa proud, to spill as much blood as possible, and to create pure chaos. When he died, he became something much worse than human. Why would he ever want to go back? Next we cut to the mall arcade. It's buzzing with tons of teenagers dumping quarters into all different types of arcade cabinets. Eventually, one kid notices his quarters are gone, and he accuses the kid next to him, which starts a small tussle. It sort of snowballs into all the groups around them, eventually engulfing a dozen or so more kids in the chaos. The mall security quickly descends on the teenage riot, and as they do, a sneaky little John Connor type kid slithers away with a backpack full of everyone's quarters. Now, just for the sake of simplicity here, I'm going to be referring to this character throughout the rest of the story as John Connor or John Connor Kid, just because I don't really have a name for the character at this point, but he is one of the main protagonists. Next, we will cut to a Reggie the Reckless type kid, which, for the same sake of simplicity, we'll refer to him as Reggie as the story moves on. He's scoping out a security camera high above his head. He moves a tall plant to create a blind spot between them, and then uses that blind spot to help steal some change from a string of kiddie rides. As he's finishing up, the John Connor Kid joins him, and they take their haul to the nearest coin kiosk. Reggie cashes the coins as John Connor keeps watch, and quickly from a distance he notices a group of the arcade kids ratting to some security guards and pointing in their direction. When the guards start towards them, John Connor Kid and Reggie dip fast. This would lead to a foot chase scene throughout the mall. Think Mr. Nice Guy, or Hot Fuzz, or The Matrix, or even Ferris Bueller, only it turns into sort of a double chase scene when John Connor and Reggie split up and momentarily lose security. We see John Connor getting caught at the last moment, but Reggie's fate is left up in the air. Next we cut back to Chucky and the boss. They're watching people in the mall through the closed gate of the oddity shop. Chucky wants to lock the mall down and turn it into a human meat grinder, essentially kill a bunch of people and keep making it look like accidents. But when it hits the fan and everyone begins to panic, they won't be able to get out and they'll destroy each other in a frenzy of fear. He decides their best bet is to access the security room and see if he can find any maps or blueprints of the building. Next we cut to the mall security room Chucky mentioned. There's a guard curled over a comic book, practically ignoring the wall of CCTV camera feeds in front of him. We hear chatter over his radio confirming that the John Connor Kid is captured and on his way to the security room with an officer. The guard reading the comic copies over the radio and returns to his book, only slightly annoyed. Then comes a knock at the door and he's completely pissed. He marches to the door and yanks it open to find Chucky, or at least the boss holding Chucky up to him. He tells the guard that the doll was left at his store and that he brought it for the lost and found. The guard just snatches it from him and tells him to scram right away. We flash to the John Connor kid, escorted by a young security guard. Soon their banter lets us know that they're acquainted. This isn't the first time that he's busted this kid. The guard seems like a pretty good person. He talks to the John Connor kid not in like a condescending, disrespectful way, but more like a big brother, sort of encouraging him while at the same time scolding him for all the bad things that he's done. And this entire time that they're talking, we notice that the Reggie kid is actually on their tail, discreetly following them as they make their way to the security room. Speaking of the security room, we flash back to it, and Chucky at this point has the guard strung upside down. He tortures the guy and finds out that he needs the supervisor's access card to override the security locks. He sees an Employee of the Month plaque on the wall with a young guard from before on it. Tortured man confirms that he's the one with the card that Chucky needs. Chucky then kills the upside down guard after promising to spare him if he talked, and leaves him dangling there dripping an awful mess, with the boss watching on from the corner. Chucky tells the boss that their new target is this security guard supervisor, who at this point we're going to go ahead and call Paul. Chucky says that they need to find Paul immediately, but the boss is a little bit hesitant. He doubts that they'll be able to do it very easily because the mall is huge, it's full of people. All of a sudden, the door abruptly opens to the security room, and there stands Paul and the John Connor kid. They notice Chucky and the boss, and Chucky and the boss notice them, but they all just sort of stand there, frozen and confused. Even Chucky is shocked because it's never this easy. Chucky then completely snaps out of it and shouts at the boss. Paul isn't stupid. He sees a talking doll and all the mess there behind him, and he throws the John Connor kid over his shoulder like a firefighter and dips. Now, the boss doesn't even try to chase Paul and the John Connor kid. He's not much of an athlete, not much for any kind of physical activity at all. Prefontaine, he is not. He does not do cardio. He just kind of looks around the room confused. Chucky's furious. Chucky absolutely snaps and beats the shit out of him, and he threatens him. He tells him if he disobeys Chucky's orders again, Chucky's gonna kill him. What follows next would be a series of set pieces where Chucky sabotages different facets of the mall, causing all sorts of terrifying near misses, brutal maimings, and some really gory kills. At the same time, he would be hunting and be hunted by the main protagonist in a sort of weird teeter-tottering game of cat and mouse. Paul and the John Connor kid try their best to fend off Chucky, while at the same time doing as good as they can not to reveal his secret to the public. They don't really want to cause a panic in the mall, they want to keep things looking business as usual, but it gets pretty hard with how much chaos Chucky's causing. Eventually, Chucky breaks them up and corners the John Connor kid, but he's saved at the last minute by Reggie, who's been tailing everyone the entire time. Chucky's plan goes to shit, and he's absolutely furious. At this point, all he wants to do is kill those kids. The final confrontation would take place in a massive sporting goods section, something like a Cabela's or a Bass Pro Shop. Paul pulls the fire alarm, the sprinklers go off, and it's raining inside like crazy. Paul finds a shotgun and a big box full of ammo. He kills the boss and then chases Chucky throughout the store. The John Connor kid and Reggie are chasing Chucky too. They're armed with bats or golf clubs or whatever they can find in the sporting goods store. He catches them off guard and almost gets them, but Paul shows up and blows him away. As Chucky lays dying on the ground, he tries to mutter out a spell, but Paul interrupts it with one last blast from the shotty. Now, the story really ends there. The boys would be so traumatized that they're probably going to have to be committed, and Paul's definitely going to be without a job, maybe even in jail after all that's happened. The characters just sort of stand there after defeating Chucky, looking at each other, wondering what's going to come next, and the camera slowly zooms in on Chucky's lifeless eyes before cutting to black. So the ending would obviously be open here. As we said at the beginning of the story, if Chucky's body dies, he just goes straight back to hell until he's summoned again. He'll be back. He always comes back. I know at this point this idea is lacking in some detail. There's obviously parts of the story that would need to be fleshed out. Maybe some stuff would need to be cut, but I think that Chucky loose at the mall, causing chaos at the mall, is a good premise to build from. Malls are a massive part of American culture. I think it would be really easy for most people to envision themselves in a mall and allow themselves to get pulled into the story. And much like Dawn of the Dead actually did, you could use the mall setting here to further critique consumerism, which is something that Don Mancini did a little bit in that original Child's Play film. He focused more on how marketing targets children, and I think here would be a great opportunity to expand on those themes towards a more adult perspective. Malls are filled with hundreds of stores, thousands of different people with all kinds of different stories to tell, tons of different opportunities for set pieces and story situations at a writer's fingertips. Now, I know that something like this isn't perfect, but with a lot of time and effort and work put into it, I think it would make a great Chucky movie. So that's my idea for a Chucky movie at the mall. Did you like it? Did you hate it? Let me know in the comments down below. Share your ideas with me and let me know maybe if something I might have missed. I want to thank you for watching, and until next time, stay safe out there.